So SEO is basically search engine optimization. What that means is, in very simple terms, is that Google considers that your website is optimized for search. So when people search for a particular keyword or a particular domain, hi Shilpa, so your site pops up in search results. Hey, okay, everybody else hear me? Okay, Indie Blogger says they can't hear me, and okay. Hey, hi Sheetal, hi, nice to see you here. Okay, so the thing about search engine optimization is it usually works best with self-hosted blogs, and but the advantage with having any other kind of blog is you can still work on optimizing it, provided you know certain few tips and tricks. Now, what I want to talk about right now is why I'm talking about SEO at all. So, for the last 3 years, I've been working with a parenting website called Buzzing Bubs. Those of you who know about it. So, I'm the editor. So, what happened is when they reached out to me initially, it was as a writer. So, they wanted me to come on board as a writer. And then they said, actually, why don't you join us as an editor? And as a part of the editorial role, one of the things I learned was search engine optimization. So I don't have a certificate in SEO or anything like that, guys. So I may actually be, not fully qualified in that sense, but I'll try to share what I know and what I know has worked, especially for my work website, which is Buzzing Bubs, because right now the content there is very well optimized for SEO. We get a lot of relevant organic traffic which comes to our website. Okay, hey, so what I'm going to talk about right now is going to be relevant to anybody who's on a self-hosted platform. If you're not self-hosted, don't worry, I'll give you some tips and tricks a little later in the session. Okay, so there are two things when you have to think about hi Bhavya. Yeah, two things when you have to talk about when you have to think about SEO. There's something called on-page SEO and off-page SEO. Now, on-page SEO is basically what you can do on your website itself to optimize it better for Google. Okay, so now this would ideally work if you are yes, Soumya. But don't worry, I'll give you some tips where you can also use, say, Pinterest in order to optimize it better. So you don't have to exit yet. Okay. Hey, hi Aparna, hi Omika. Thank you for joining. So on-page SEO, if you are on self-hosted and you must have the plugin called the Yoast SEO plugin. If you do, later on I'll walk you through some of the uh, concepts step by step if you have your laptop open in front of you. Okay. So on off-page, so I'll start with off-page SEO and then go to on-page SEO. Off-page SEO basically means how does Google rank your website based on your competition. So if ideally you should rank on page one, and ideally you should rank in the top 5 because people don't usually click beyond that when they're doing search. That you would have noticed even from your personal experience, right? So one of the first things that Google expects you to do is that you create high quality content. Now this means grammatically correct content, error free, anything which is useful content, which means is something that your readers are looking for and you're providing that for them. So suppose you're in the food domain or in the recipes domain, if you have something very specific which people are searching for, then you should ideally optimize your posts according to that. Second thing you should do is evergreen content. Now, for instance, my last post was on 12 apps that bloggers should have on their smartphones. Now, this is one of the things this is one of what we can call evergreen content. But that said, you never know. An app can disappear from the web app store, or an upgraded version may come in of a particular, another app. So it's not necessarily evergreen, but what you can do is you can keep going back and updating the content based on the situation. Okay. The third thing you should do is create content which solves a problem. So if you know that people are searching for a particular topic and they keep mentioning that this is a problem that they are facing, so if how do you find this kind of content? Hi Shilpa, nice to see you here. How do you find this kind of content? Number of ways. One, of course, is use Google search yourself in your particular domain and identify what is it that people are searching for. So if you're writing about feminism, for instance, what are the kinds of topics that people are writing about? What is it that people are searching for? What is it about feminism that draws people into your blog, right? So that's one thing you should keep in mind. So Google search itself is a great option. There's another option where you actually go on focus groups on Facebook where people talk about topics in your niche, and therefore you can try and develop keywords or topics based on the discussions generated there. So if you're in a, say, a women oriented group, or if you're on a recipe oriented group, depending on your domain, of course, try and identify what is it that people want. So this is an excellent place to find what. So one or two of the blogging groups I belong to, so there are always people asking, so how do I work on sponsored posts? How do I get into affiliate marketing? Or how do I go self-hosted? So I've written subjects, topics on these kinds of, posts on these kinds of topics. So I can either share my content there directly for them to read, or I can make sure that based on the kind of keywords that they are using in order to figure out what is it that they're looking for, kind of match that with Google search and then pick it up accordingly. Okay, now this, by the way, will also work very well through Pinterest. Now, while my work website generates a lot of traffic through organic search, which means it's very well optimized for SEO, my personal blog generates 80% of its traffic through Pinterest keyword search. Now, Pinterest keyword search is fantastic because, for one thing, you don't have to be self-hosted. You just have to go and look for the keywords based on what people are searching for. And the beautiful thing about Pinterest that I like is, suppose, let's say you're talking about toys for kids, right? So you just say toys for kids in the search bar, and you just look at all the suggestions that pop up below that, right? So they'll have a lot of keywords. So they'll say toddlers, teens, school going, preschoolers. So there'll be various categories which you can optimize your content for. It's fantastic. So what I usually do is I do a cross check both on Google and Pinterest, and it's basically hit and miss. Some of my traffic comes very well through Google search, most of it comes through Pinterest search. So what I've enjoyed about working on SEO on the work platform is the fact that it has translated so well to my personal blog as well. So although I'm still building the organic search value for my personal blog, what I love about Pinterest is it drives traffic anyway. So if you're not on self-hosted, don't worry. If you're on free WordPress or you're on Blogger, which is not on a custom domain or whatever, it is no problem. You don't have to worry about a plugin. You just have to look at Pinterest search, see what is it that people are searching for. Okay, and what I like about Pinterest is it's all organic traffic. Means because people use Pinterest very similarly to the way they use Google search. So you have high quality readers coming to your blog. So these are people who will read your content, engage with your content, comment on your posts, maybe share your posts, and even sign up for your newsletter if you have one. Okay, which reminds me, my profile in today's Instagram bio is my newsletter sign up link. So if you haven't signed up, feel free to go and sign up for it. Hi Priyanka, nice to see you here. So okay, so those are the three things where content is concerned. So to quickly recap, it has to be useful content, it has to be evergreen content, it should solve people's problems in your particular niche or in your particular domain. Okay, the next thing that you should do, which is again continuing an off-page SEO, your blog should be mobile responsive. A huge amount of traffic today comes through mobile. Now, on my personal blog itself, I think it comes to around 75% of people use it on the mobile. Okay, so it has to be optimized for mobile. And most blogs, whether self-hosted or otherwise, will have very simple switch in the dashboard where it asks you to make it optimized for mobile. So we've found that both at Buzzing Bubs and on my personal blog that a lot of our traffic is mobile. So mobile is the way forward, I feel, as far as readership is concerned. So you have to keep that in mind. So your website has to be mobile optimized. Okay. Next thing, your page should load fast. Now, few things you typically weigh down page loading time. I read somewhere that I think the attention span of people is now 7 seconds, which is less than that of a jellyfish. So I don't really know if that's a good thing, but from the marketing perspective, it's important because you understand that you have only those 3 to 4 seconds where people come to your blog and they decide, okay, is this content that I really want to read? And you can't be pushing them away, right? So you have to make sure that, okay, now I've got them here. How do I keep them here? So hey, hi Rashi, hi Akila, hi So you have to make sure that the page loads fast. So one of the things that slows down page loading time is the size of your images. And if you have too many images on your website, again, that increases page loading time. So try to reduce the number of images on your, especially on your blog posts page, and make sure that it's something that people will want to stay on and read. Okay. The next thing that you should do is use interlinking. Now, what this means is, let us say you're writing a post on recipes, right, on your blog. Now, your recipe is something to do with, say, Holi. Now, Holi is coming up, so a lot of people will have Holi recipes on their blog. Now, it can be something very specific to Holi, a sweet item or gujia or whatever it is. Now, within that recipe, you should also have internal links to other recipes on your website, which are either Holi related or festival related. Now, most websites have what is called as related posts thing at the bottom of the page, if you've noticed. But what we have observed is very few people actually click on those links. What they typically click on is links within the text itself. So it's very important that the internal linking that you do happens within the post. So for instance, my post I did on the menstrual cup, if you read it, within the first paragraph or two, I had linked back to my post on puberty talk with tweens. Now, the advantage is because it's on the same subject and it's more or less in the same area, people are likely to actually go and click through. Okay, so it's very important that you do internal linking sensibly, but at the same time, don't stuff it with too many links, because if you have a post of 1,000 words and you have about 6 or 7 links in there, that's again going to send a red flag to Google. Okay, this is too many links, something is wrong. Why is this person stuffing so many links into the post? So make sure that you don't overdo those things as well. Okay. Again, Google Search Console. Now, Google Search Console, I'm not sure. I'm hoping that this should be available for free blogs as well. But as far as I know, it is available for those who are on Blogger, as well as those who are on self-hosted WordPress, as well as paid WordPress. So you should add your blog to Google Search Console. Now, this is different from Google Analytics. Google Search Console, you can keep posting, Rashi. You can start posting. I mean, I'm almost done with the basics. So I'm just going over the points right now, and I'll answer questions as and when I'm done. Right? Okay. So yes, I was talking about Google Search Console. It's available for everyone. Yeah, thanks, Shantala. Thank you for confirming that. So, you're still up. So, so anyway, she's in the US, guys. So she should not be awake this late, but she being her. So anyway, thanks. So Search Console is available for everyone. So the advantage there is you have to you get to see what are the search terms people are using to land on your blog. There will surely be something. So don't say, nobody searches for my blog. I'm a nobody. It very rarely happens that way. Give it some time. Okay, have at least a few posts on your blog, up on your blog, where people can come and look at it and so on. So it helps to build your presence on Google. Now, another very interesting way which all bloggers love, and which actually works, by the way, which has nothing to do with any technical knowledge, is commenting on other blogs. Now, this is one of the best ways to build quality, relevant backlinks to your blog. Now, this is something I actually enjoy doing because I don't know if I spoke about it or I wrote about it some time ago. Basically, I have days where I set aside purely for visiting other blogs. So for me, that's typically Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Don't ask me why. I have a whole pattern behind it. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays I typically don't comment on blogs. Thursdays it's a few blogs. So bulk of my blog reading happens on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Okay. So what I notice is when you actually make the effort to go and visit other blogs, either in your niche or outside them, build and you leave a link. Usually, if it is another self-hosted blog, what happens is you get to sign in and leave a link back to your blog. Correct? So those who are on self-hosted will know this. And the advantage there is people actually get to see your hey, hi Naitra. Yeah. Time management, yes, that interestingly will be one of my upcoming Insta lives for blog reading specifically. Sure, Soumya. Okay, so I was saying, yeah, so backlinks, relevant and quality backlinks are added to your blog, especially by commenting on other blogs. Now, Commenting on blogs, that itself should be ideally a separate Instagram live session. But in brief, what I would want you to do is leave a comment which shows the blogger that you have actually read the content. Don't go by the title, and don't just skip to the end and read like 2 lines and say, okay, this is what this is what I feel. And please don't read other people's comments and copy them. That's a little weird, don't you think? I've always found that very weird. So I read about 3 comments which look very similar. So I mean, have some originality, and show the blogger that you've actually added some value to the content. Because one thing I'll tell you is, one of the ways I get ideas for blog posts is reading the comments on my blog as well as other people's blogs. So I think it's important that you make that effort to read. Now, like I said, like Soumya asked, I will have a session on how do you make time for reading blogs on a regular basis, on an ongoing weekly basis. So I mean, it's working for me with a with a part-time job and my blogs and my other schedules. So I'm sure all of you can make it work as well. It's just a bit of time management. Okay. So the other wonderful way to make sure that your blog is SEO optimized is your social media profiles. Now, all your social media websites, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, whatever it is, they all rank very high on Google, correct? So when your website, your link, that is your homepage or whatever it is, gets shared, or even your specific blog post, like you share your post on Facebook, you share your post on Pinterest, or you share your post on Twitter. So these keep adding quality value to Google. So Google starts understanding, and the more shares it gets, the social media proof is what it is called. So the more social media proof a particular post gets, the more valuable is what that post is. That's how Google sees it. And you have to understand that Google is basically a robot, right? It's not actually looking at how well you've constructed your sentences and things like that. It's looking at the value that you're providing. So make sure that this is something that you use to your benefit. Okay, how do you work in SEO? Writing fiction stories, any length. So SEO in and out, Yoast and everything. How to go about this? Okay, now I'll come to on-page SEO, and therefore I will be able to answer that. Yes, yes, Soumya, good post, lovely post, nice ones are not good comments. I completely agree. I do agree that people who are starting off on blogging tend to do this a lot. I wouldn't really criticize them at this point. But if you're going to be consistently leaving comments like that, then I'm sorry, but yes, that you should not be doing that. Okay, so try to work on being a little more original in your comments. Okay, now going to talk about on-page SEO. Now, if you have your website open in front of you, and if you have your WordPress dashboard open, you will notice that the Yoast plugin, which is right below your content, right? It will have the option to add your focus keywords. So you have two things. You have readability and you have keywords, correct? So I'm talking about something generic for now, Rashi, first, and then I'll come to fiction in particular. Okay. Now, one of the first things you need to do is identify what is going to be your focus keyword. Now, so focus keyword has to be something very, very relevant to the topic of your post. And it also has to be something which people are searching for, which is why I said there's Google Keyword Planner, which is a very effective tool. So try and use that to identify what are some of the related search words that people are looking for. The other option, like I told you, is Pinterest. Now, Pinterest is a gold mine as far as keywords are concerned. So you can actually look there. So like I said, I do a mix. I look on Google as well as Pinterest. And this I've mentioned before. Please make sure that you write the content first. That means you write your post the way you would write it, in your natural writing style. Later on, work on the keywords. Because what happens is, when you try to use the keyword and build based on that, the writing comes out very stilted. People know that people are doing this for the sake of writing, Hey, hi Vasanta, hi Priyanka, nice to see you guys. Okay. So the focus keyword is something that you need to look at. So like I said, this is again provided you have the Yoast plugin. If you don't have the Yoast plugin, like I said, go with the Pinterest keyword option. Now in Yoast, you have the option of creating what is called a separate page title and a separate SEO title. Okay. Now the SEO title is what you have inside the Yoast box itself. Okay. So hi, Shobana, hi. So what you should do is make sure that that particular Yoast box has something which people are likely to click on. Okay, I'm not going to say clickbait because I hate that term and I hate the concept itself. But how do you make content useful without making it seem as if you're, you know, asking people to click on it? It's a very delicate path to walk. Okay, but there are certain things which tend to work well. For instance, if you do how-to posts, if you do why posts, if you do numeric posts, that means you have a number in the title, 5 ways to do this, 6 ways to do this, 7 ways to be a patient parent. So these kinds of posts typically rank better as far as Google is concerned. So I would suggest try a few different titles, see what works in terms of traffic to your blog, and try and optimize that and try to replicate that if need be. Okay, so work on what works for you. So that if you're using Yoast, remember the page title can be different from the SEO title. Typically, what happens if you have a Twitter share button, and if somebody just hits the Twitter share button to share your link on Twitter, it typically picks the SEO title, not the uh, not the page title. Okay, so if a page and SEO title are the same, then this is not a problem. Hey, hi, Kripa. Hi, nice to see you. Okay, the next thing you should work on is your meta description. Now, this is the thing just below the SEO title. The meta description typically will have a certain word count. Try and stick within that word count and not overstretch it, because that is what shows up on Google when you search for something. So if somebody searches for say blogging apps and my post comes up, the clip that you see on Google is what I fed into the meta description. So that's very important. This meta description again can have your keyword. So for instance, my keyword, my focus keyword, it should be keywords actually grammatically, but it's okay. Focus keyword for this particular post was apps for bloggers. So if you notice, apps for bloggers will appear in my page title, in my SEO title, in my meta description, in the URL, very important. Okay, in the URL. So these are the 4 or 5 places they have to appear, and of course in the content. Now, again, like I said, see, Google is a machine, right? So if you say blogging apps for bloggers, it understands that it's somehow related. It understands that, but the green light that it shows you saying this is optimized for SEO only happens when you use the exact keywords. So you have to make sure what you're using is not too stilted so people know. And please don't use the same phrase over and over again, apps for blogger, apps for blogger, apps for bloggers, because people understand that okay, you're just stuffing it with SEO keywords, and that never does well. So use it sensibly, use it through the text. Okay, and don't overdo it. Okay, kind of have a balance. The other place you should use it is in what is called the image. Now, if you have a featured image for your blog post, there is something called the alt text, which means now Google can't understand images. What it understands is text. Uh, hey, Kripa, I actually spoke about that a little earlier, choosing appropriate keywords, but I'll recap that a little in a bit, right? So the alt text is very important. The alt text has to contain your focus keyword, because Google again says, okay, app for bloggers, but especially when it shows up on image search, it pulls the text. It doesn't pull the image itself. So your image has to have the alt text. So make sure you do include that. The next thing you should do is make sure you use the right categories for your blog posts. Now, all your blog posts should have categories and tags. Tags are typically something which is which it's don't think it's a category. For instance, I can have a category saying blogging tips, okay, but I can have tags saying Android apps, blogging apps, smartphone apps, iOS apps, okay. So based on that, you can use different tags. Don't have too many categories, because that again makes it difficult for Google to kind of it becomes very fragmented. So hi Vidya, hi, nice to see you. So based on all these things, you have to kind of take a call on balancing. See, for me, I'll be very honest, everything has been trial and error from the day I started blogging till today, and it will continue. Everything is trial and error, which is kind of fun. I mean, I enjoy it at least. So I have no problem trying out different things, seeing what works, what doesn't, and then rejecting something because it doesn't work. So play around with some concepts, guys. See what works for you, see what increases traffic for you, and go with what you enjoy. Okay, so hey, hi Monica, I hope you're feeling better. It's nice to see you here. Okay, so don't over push yourself in that sense, but do try to keep yourself open to experiences when it comes to any concepts which seem to work well. Now, one of the things you can definitely use is Pinterest. Okay, now I love Pinterest, guys, so I tend to keep coming back to Pinterest in every session, every blog post. So please forgive my enthusiasm for Pinterest. Okay, so one of the things I love about Pinterest is the fact that you don't have to have a self-hosted blog in order to be optimizing for keyword or SEO, because Pinterest itself manages to send you a lot of valuable and good quality traffic. Hi Kamla, hi, nice to see you. So valuable and good quality traffic based on the kind of keywords you use. Okay, so Pinterest is great for that. So Krupa, you had asked, right, where do I find keywords? One of the options is Google Keyword Planner, like I mentioned. The other option is Pinterest keyword search. Pinterest keyword search is fantastic because it gives you specifics, it gives you breakdown of what kind of keywords other people are using, and it typically shows you trending topics right on the top of the page. So if you're a recipe blogger or if you're a fashion blogger, these things do, these particular domains, especially lifestyle, food, recipes, do excellently on Pinterest. So if you're not using Pinterest yet, I highly suggest creating an account, making a business account, and please go ahead and start using Pinterest, because it's one of the best high quality organic traffic drivers of blog traffic. So I can't praise it enough. Okay, so the other thing, I think I've covered most of the points here. Oh yes, very, very important. Sorry, I forgot one important point. The length of your content, which it should be at least a minimum of 300 words. Okay, now minimum of 300 words for the simple reason that Google requires that much for it to even say that, okay, this is quality content worth looking at. Now, Rashi, you had asked about fiction. Now, fiction, I'll be very honest, it's a bit difficult to say optimize for keyword search. So, but what I would say is make sure that you have at least some keywords. So, for instance, if you're doing flash fiction, or if you're doing a long form fiction, or you're doing long reads, try and see what are the kind of posts which rank high when you search for fiction. See, for instance, one of the posts on my writing blog which does very, very well is fiction writing tips. Now that again, because Google likes posts like these, they like how-to posts, they like tutorials, which is why I say recipes do really well, you know. So what I'm saying is it really depends on the domain. So fiction, I would say, to be very honest, keyword search may be a bit difficult, but I will still do a bit of research on that and get back to you specific to fiction and keyword research. Okay, but what I would say is try to make it 300 words minimum. Google requires that much for it to even index it and show it in search results. So make sure that is happening. Oh, and I would highly suggest going with readability and keyword. Now, a lot of people make fun of the Yoast readability concept, saying it dumbs it down. And yes, Soumya, for poetry too. I'll check. Yeah. So I'll just make a note of that. So poetry and fiction, right? I see. So one of the things I find is people say its readability is dumbed down version of quality writing. I honestly don't agree completely. It can seem that way, especially if you're the kind who likes to write freestyle, stream of consciousness writing. But remember that as a blog, you are writing for readers, you are writing for search engines, you are writing for people to come and look at your content. Now, what I would suggest is make the content skimmable. So, which means don't have very long paragraphs. Very long paragraphs, the problem is number one, on mobile devices as well as on screens, or even on the desktop, for instance, reading continuous, reams of text becomes very heavy on the eye. So, break it up into shorter paragraphs. It really helps. Number one. The second thing you should ideally do is make sure that you have subheads, especially if it's a tutorial. So if it's a tutorial or a how-to post or a list kind of post, make sure you have clear subheads, because subheads are very important again for SEO and on-page SEO. So Yoast again will show you green if you use the right subheadings. Use the keyword in at least one of the subheadings if possible. Don't do it if you feel it's kind of a force fit. Do it only if you feel it's worth your effort. Okay. So what I would work on personally is trying to see which posts get the best traffic and optimize that accordingly. So this is a very, what shall I say, non-tech session. Has been a very non-tech session on SEO, guys. I'm not a very tech person in that sense. I mean, if you ask me very specifically on HTML or coding, I would be absolutely at a loss to explain any of those things. But as far as the basics of SEO are concerned, these are what it is. And one last thing I want to add. In WordPress, I'm not sure if this feature is available in Blogger, although somebody did tell me once that it is. In WordPress, right at the bottom of your post, in your draft section, there's something called excerpt. Have you seen that? Now the excerpt is very important because uh, that is what goes to your subscribers. So suppose somebody signed up to your blog, they will only see that. And if you, for instance, if you go to my blog, shailajavi.com, if you go to the home page and if you look at the posts on the home page, you will see a snippet. You will see a snippet which is like 1 or 2 lines long. It just tells you what the post is about, okay? Or it gives you kind of a summary or a blurb kind of a thing. This is important because for one of two reasons. One is it reduces page loading time. The other thing is, if you're sending your content to subscribers by email, or people have signed up to receive your posts by email over through WordPress, the thing that I have noticed is a lot of bloggers face plagiarism, because if you send the entire entire post by email, two things happen. One, your readers are reading the post on email. They're not actually coming to your blog to read it, right? So you're losing page views. Second, plagiarism. People have been known to just copy paste the entire text from the email, repaste it to their own blog or create a separate blog, and that's the huge problem with the duplicate content. Okay, I actually want to talk about duplicate content. I don't know if I have the time, so but what I would suggest is, if you have the option, if you are on WordPress, please opt for sending only excerpts to people by email, so which would reduce plagiarism risk by at least 95% is what I would say. Okay, so that's it from my side. Maybe I have another 5 minutes to take any specific questions if you have them, or we can wind up. Uh, as a reminder, my profile has the link to my newsletter. I send out a monthly newsletter on the first of every month, which I have 3 newsletters for 3 different sets of people. I have one exclusively for parents, one exclusively for bloggers, and one for parents who are also bloggers. So you only get content that is relevant to your niche and relevant to your interests. So so far people have enjoyed the newsletter. I mean, I have not heard anybody say they have not enjoyed it, which may also be possible. But so far they have enjoyed it. So if you haven't signed up and you would like it, please head over to the profile and sign up today. I look forward to meeting you in your inbox on the first